This week, Kyogre makes it rain again in Hoenn, and Groudon's there too.
Activision ups the ante on Destiny.
ZeniMax says they're sorry.
And EA bids farewell to aging titles.
I'm Charles.
I'm Dan.
And this is the Dedicated Server.
Trainers prepared to return to the region of Hoenn. On May 7th, Nintendo announced remakes to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire called Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The release window is set for November of this year, with both games coming out on the Nintendo 3DS. With this being all the information we have been given so far, this leaves us with a lot of questions. Charles, since Yellow was the last one I played, could you glean some insight into some of the speculation out there?
Surely, Dan. The original Ruby and Sapphire are 11-year-old games that came out on the Game Boy Advance. They are known as the third generation of Pokemon games, and now they're being reintroduced as 6th generation games alongside X and Y. Assuming they're like X and Y, which I believe is a safe assumption to make, we can expect Omega and Alpha to be remade with a fully three-dimensional Hoenn as the Kalos region was in X and Y, with reimagined environments, remastered music tracks, and even 3D rendered battles. From the short teaser footage released later in the week displaying Groudon and Kyogre in 3D rendered graphics, we can more safely assume that these games will be in line with Pokemon X and Y in terms of graphics. We can also assume Omega and Alpha to be compatible with the additional 300 species of Pokemon and the changes made to the pre-existing almost 400 Pokemon, and include all gameplay updates since, such as new moves, rebalance types, online connectivity using the Nintendo Network, and compatibility with Pokemon X and Y, Pokemon Bank, and the Poke Transporter.
And I didn't understand any of that. But this is all speculation on our part, so let's not jump to any conclusions just yet.
It looks like Bungie's Destiny is really damn expensive. From the creators of the acclaimed Halo franchise, Destiny is looking to be Activision's next big investment, with a planned $500 million being pumped into development and marketing. Now this number dwarfs Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto V, which estimated about a $260 million budget. To put this into perspective, Bungie's last title, Halo Reach, in 2010, had an estimated budget of $55 million. It's clear that Activision has put their highest stakes on the Halo creators and their new baby.
For Activision to break even with Destiny, they would need to sell over 15 million copies. Damn. Why are they putting so much into the new IP? They, along with Bungie, hope to make Destiny into a 10-year project, making it their new money-printing franchise. With the dwindling interest in the Call of Duty franchise, it's no surprise they're looking for something new. Gamers want something new, and the reception to Destiny has already proven that many have already bought into it.
We will most likely see just how expensive Destiny is when Bungie reveals more about the game and the upcoming beta at E3.
Adventurers of Cyrodiil received an apologetic gift recently. ZeniMax, creators of The Elder Scrolls Online, gave their players 5 days of free game time in an attempt to make up for the problems that plagued the game since its release. Some of these problems include rampant gold farming through the use of bots, and quest bugs severe enough to break the game in some cases. However, this might not be enough to keep subscribers happy.
During the beta, Dan and I could not force ourselves to play more than 10 hours total. There were so many glitches in the game that it distracted from the rest of the experience. We're not talking about early beta either. These are problems that remain through several closed betas, including the one less than 3 weeks before the game's release.
In our opinion, all these problems, coupled with the fact that an MMO sometimes fell short on the multiplayer part, ultimately made this ambitious foray into the Elder Scrolls franchise a flop.
Did we mention that the console versions got delayed by half a year? ZeniMax recently announced that the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 releases would be postponed for 6 months. With a holiday 2014 release window, we believe that hype for the game will have died down to such a low point that there will either be ridiculous incentives for the console versions, or ZeniMax will be forced to make some concessions, perhaps even free to play.
Long story short, we think that ESO had a rough launch for PC and Mac. The scope of the game was too big, and the Elder Scrolls universe is just too difficult to bring to an MMO experience, while maintaining the grand story we have come to know and love from the series.
But hopefully by this holiday season, ZeniMax can clean up the Elder Scrolls Online for console release, and throw out a few more fixes and patches for the already released versions. Maybe they'll even try to pull a Final Fantasy XIV and drop a Meteor on Cyrodiil, who knows. I hope not.
Hit the lights on your way out, boys. EA is going to be shutting down online services for many of their older titles. What this means is that online multiplayer will not be available for these games. EA released a full list of games in a recent statement on their website.
Now this is nothing completely new, as EA has been in the process of phasing out older titles already. Some of these titles on the chopping block for June 30th include earlier Battlefield titles, Crysis 1 and 2, Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, and older Command & Conquer games.
Many other titles on this list include those featured on Nintendo Wii and Nintendo DS platforms. This comes as no surprise as Nintendo's discontinuing the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection services for those consoles later this month, which also coincides with the shutdown of many GameSpy services. Well, that about wraps up what we have for you guys this week. If you like this video, make sure to let us know in the comments below, to like and subscribe and share and all that fun stuff.
And don't forget to tune in next week to the dedicated server for all your gaming news. I'm Charles.
And I'm Dan.
And thanks for watching.